Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello again, Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, examine the artwork, the writers, look at the backgrounds of the creators and the characters. This time, I want to take a look at. I'm not going to look at the comic strip, but this is a character that started in comic strips. It also has a long history in comic books. We're going to look at one of the comic book versions of the Phantom. Ta-da! Yeah, you're seeing double. Okay, this is the Phantom, which was created by Lee Falk. The story we're going to be looking at was drawn by Jim Aparo, and it was originally for this issue of the Phantom from Charlton Comics. But I'm going to use this one just because it's a newer reproduction, and this was a reprint from Hermes Press. They reprinted some nice hardback books, reprinting Phantom stories from the comics. But I just wanted to show you this. I discovered a couple pages are missing in the middle, and this was from, was it 1970. So let's take a little look in the big book of knowledge. See what that has to say. The Phantom was created by Lee Falk. The story we're going to look at is called The Trap by writer Norm de Plume, I think is how it's supposed to be pronounced, and artist Jim Aparo. Okay, The Phantom is an American adventure comic strip by Lee Falk, distributed by King Feature Syndicate, beginning in 1936. He is a costumed crime fighter operating out of the fictional East African country of Bengala. Sometimes it's just shown as a jungle island in the Indian Ocean too. And the strip is still in production, and it is still being run in 583 papers throughout the world. I don't think I've ever seen it in a newspaper myself, just reprints. Okay, Falk worked on the strip until his death in 1999. And a myriad of creators have worked on the strip both before and after Falk's death. The Phantom in comic books has been published by various publishers over the decades, featuring original stories and art. I'm going to talk about the artist here, Jim Aparo, from 1932 to 2005. He's an American comic book artist, and he's best known for his work for DC Comics, primarily Batman, from the late 60s to the 90s. In his 20s, he tried to enter the comic industry at EC Comics, but got no work. That's EC, where the horror and the science fiction stuff. But he worked in advertising until he broke into the field with a comic strip, very short-lived comic strip, Stern Wheeler, in 1963. Then he was hired by Dick Giordano at Charlton Comics in 1966. He drew a variety of genres, Western, science fiction, romance, and horror, etc., primarily in anthologies. In the late 60s, Dick Giordano moved to DC Comics, taking Aparo with him. At DC, he worked on Aquaman while still drawing the Phantom at Charlton, eventually doing DC work exclusively. He became a primary artist on various Batman titles, which he is most closely associated with. And I have to say, I've seen dozens, if not, dozens of artists work on Batman, and Jim Aparo is my favorite Batman artist. And he's a favorite of a close friend of mine, too. So, we're just going to go into the deep woods, in the land of Bangala, into the jungles, and take a look at an adventure featuring the Phantom. And here we see the two versions of this cover of the Phantom. And the cover is drawn by Jim Aparo. This old one, of course, it says 3 complete, exciting adventures. And 2 of the 3 from this book are reprinted in here, plus another one. But we're just going to be looking into one. But I want to, before we get too far ahead, oh, geez. I had a thought, and I lost the thought. Oh, well. Yeah, these Phantom books were primarily had 2 or 3 different stories, and it was done by a variety of publishers. Probably the longest of them was Charlton, and I want to look at some others here. Here is from Gold Key. This is earlier in the 60s. It's a really nice cover painting, and the interior art was really nice as well. Not quite as dynamic or fluid as Jim Aparo was, but it's some very, very nice draftsmanship. Then King Features, who's the syndicate, which carries the Phantom comic strip, just started publishing comic books of their own featuring original stories. It did the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, Jungle Jim, and Flash Gordon that I know of. May have been others. And here's one of those. This is after Gold Key, and the cover is not nearly as nice. But the interior art is some really, really nice. And I'm not sure who this artist is. It might be Frank Bull. But I'm not sure. It's kind of nice. Then Charlton, just saw that there. Here's another Charlton. And when this particular artist, I can't remember his name, when he took over doing the comic book, I don't know how long he worked on it. And he did, instead of just doing line work for the covers, he did full painted illustrations for the cover. So you can see he did a really nice job there, and his interior art is just as lovely. And here they did some stories, not just featuring the current Phantom, but other stories. But the others did some too, throughout the history of the Phantom. And then here's one from DC Comics in I think it was in the 90s. Marvel also has done some Phantom, and aside from Hermes, I don't know who else is publishing them. And I want to show you this, in the 70s, Avon Press, in conjunction with King Features, did a series of paperback novels of the Phantom and Flash Gordon, maybe some others. I haven't seen them. And there were about a dozen or so of them over 2 or 3 years. I have 3 of them here. I think I have a couple others out in the garage somewhere. And had some really nice covers painted by Gray Morrow. He did a whole lot of covers this period of time. He did these. He did the Flash Gordons, and he also did the covers for a bunch of the Perry Rhodan science fiction books during that time period too, which was also being published by Avon, reprinted from translated and reprinted in English from German. But I thought this would be really nice. There's some nice books in it. And I'm not sure whether these novels are novelizations of published adventures from the strip, or completely original stories, or a combination of the two. Okay. Now let's take a little look inside the Phantom. See Jim Aparo, nice stuff. And it starts with a brief recap of his origin, the origin of the Phantom, which goes back 400 years. The current Phantom as depicted here is the 20th Phantom. I'm not sure whether it's still the 20th Phantom in the strips or not. But there had been a merchant ship, attacked and burned by pirates, and the captain was killed, and his son, who was the cabin boy, managed to survive. This is on the African coast, and so he got there, and he grew up, was raised by the tribe of the Bengali tribe, the natives there. And from them he got his fortune, and he became a hero, and pledged himself and his children down through the ages to fight evil. And they had to take an oath. They have the skull cave, and he carries the costume and stuff. Although back at 400 years ago, that's not wasn't a very practical costume for that time. But anyway, here we go with the current Phantom. Just get a brief shot there of the jungle, and we see Diana Palmer, who is, you might be a little familiar with it if you have seen the 1990s movie starring Billy Zane. And she is the Phantom's sometimes girlfriend. And it's a really nice work here on this lady's face. And she's just got a job to curate some artwork, Bengali artwork. And she's flying back to Bengala from New York, and she hopes to get to see the Phantom while she's there. Nice depiction of the aircraft flying through the sky. Here she is at the airport, and there's a couple of tough guys, and they're talking. Yeah, that's our ticket to the treasure cave, because there's a cave of treasure. And that sounds kind of like the part of the plot from that movie, right there. And they're going to follow the lady, but then because they know she's curating the treasures, and she's going to find the artifacts. And nice work, a nice, interesting layout that he used to carry through in his Batman stuff too. And he goes, Diana, Phantom, he's in hiding. He's in disguise. He's always in disguise, so that no one ever sees his full face. Kind of like the Lone Ranger in that respect. How did you? Oh, what a surprise me! Yeah, right here. He's got something going on, but he'll keep an eye out on her. And then we see sometime later she's going out into the forest. Has a little safari. They're going to collect some artifacts for her to curate. And they're driving, and the bad guys are driving. Had followed her out into the jungle, but they see this native guy carrying something that's not a baby. So, Carter, Ames, look, that native, look at what he's carrying. And they stop and got him. Yeah, because they saw that it was gold, and it's this gold figurine. Fantastic. Well, we're going to make him, and they make him at gunpoint lead the way to where we got it. They get there, and the whole thing was a trap. Hence the title of the story, The Trap, because these guys have been doing a lot of thefts in the area, and the Phantom tricked them. The whole thing was a setup to flush them out. And here, while the Phantom is taking down this guy, the other guy is taking a pot shot at him. Just misses him. But the Phantom, he's no slouch. He picks up the guy and then tosses him across them to take stun the gunman. But he manages to get in the truck and take off. Woo! But the Jungle Patrol catches him, and there's Diana. Oh, that's what it was. He got stuck in the mud. So the Phantom got him. And there's Diana. So, oh yeah, he admits the whole thing was a setup, but the job's real. She's still curating at the museum, but it was a whole deal. And they got to see each other, and he apologizes for using her as bait, as he did not, because she was never in any real danger. And see, it's short and sweet. 7 pages, 7-page story, and most of them were about that 7, 8, 9-page stories at this time. Instead of like a story for a whole issue, it makes for quicker reading. I would like to have seen him in the longer story the whole issue. There's another one more. He's fighting a gorilla, and here's another story. All by Jim Aparo. Really nice work. The stories are good for the most part, but they're usually pretty brief. But they work. So you don't get to see a whole lot of character development. The Phantom doesn't change much. It's always the same thing. Sometimes someone gets the upper hand on him and he has to come back. But one thing I wanted to mention is that I did talk a little bit about the Phantom before when I did the Defenders of the Earth episode. And now the Phantom, a few things you might notice. Well, he's got white eyes in his mask. Well, that's not like copying Batman. No, he predated Batman. He was the first hero of his kind in comics, or not. He wore a mask, and but the eyes in his mask were whited out. And Batman followed suit, and the like. Even the Lone Ranger didn't do that when he moved from the radio to the comics. And some later artists did, I think, just for convenience. And of course, he has the hood or the cowl, the form-fitting costume. He was the first one to have a colorful form-fitting costume, and he was also the first one to have trunks. So it was like the outfit of Circus Strongman, which is carried through comics, and of course Superman picked it up and really popularized it. But this is where it started, in the Phantom. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of trivia. So I hope you like it. I hope you like the Phantom. Go pick him up somewhere. He's still being published somewhere. Look online and you undoubtedly find some of these old comics. And it's a lot of fun, some interesting stories, some interesting artwork. The longest artist that I know of in the comic books for the Phantom was Pat Boyette, who I've talked about before. I was never entirely thrilled with his artwork at that time. It was a bit stiff, not as fluid and dynamic as Jim Aparo, but it was. He was an adequate artist, and I've talked about him before, and I do like his work. I grew to like his work more as I got older, because he was an excellent draftsman. But so, please like, share, subscribe, share it with the other comic book people, comic strip people, or just adventures, jungle adventures. Even if you're like jungle stories, like Tarzan, this works too. So thank you very much, and beware the ghost who walks. Remember, comics are art.